This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 989 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Greetings, horse people. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is an excerpt from the S Equestrian monthly jumping episode on Horses in the Morning. Show jumper Eric Thompson of Stella Farm in Wellington talks us through a great exercise that he uses with horses that are a bit too keen over fences. And we'll get right to our tip after this important message from Kentucky Performance Products.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Managing horses can be challenging. Each horse's personality affects the way he behaves and reacts to the world around him. Horses with certain dispositions can be at higher risk for developing health problems than others. High-strung or excitable horses are easily stressed, but so is the timid, quiet warrior. Stressed horses are more likely to develop digestive upsets that lead to colic, diarrhea, and ulcers. Nalox Advanced was specifically developed to support a digestive tract that is under stress. It sustains proper pH levels, reducing the incidence of ulcers and hindgut imbalances, while simultaneously supporting the healing of damaged tissues. Nalox Advanced supports the complete digestion of starches and sugars and sustains populations of beneficial bacteria. Make life a little easier on your sensitive horse and start him on Nalox Advanced today. To learn more about the ingredients in Nalox Advanced, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
So funny. So, Eric, we have my lovely husband on after doing all those wonderful interviews. As I told you, he was on the road showing at Monmouth. He won 2 of his 3 classes, so he's doing quite well. So I thought it was appropriate to have him on and give us our training tip. So what do you have for us?
Yeah, we went and did quite a few shows. We went to Monmouth, did that show, then we went to Princeton the next week. We did that show. We were at John Manning's show in Northampton, Massachusetts. So, you know, the summertime is when everybody wants to show, and you're putting a lot of miles, ring miles, on your horse. And I think the eventers can appreciate this as well, because what happens is your horse gets a little geared up, and you need sort of a quick fix exercise. I hate to use the term quick fix with horses, but these are the exercises that have been tried and true for us throughout the years, just to be able to get your horses thinking about the jumps instead of sort of thinking about scrambling through the turn and a jump off, which you have to do if you're trying to win. So what we did yesterday, hopefully this all works out this next week, because we've got one more week of showing. The mare's really been working hard for me. But what we did was we set up 2 different gymnastic exercises in the schooling area, and one is a pair of verticals 18 feet apart. So it's quite a short one stride. And what we do is we split the difference with a landing rail in between A and B. So you have 2 jumps 18 feet apart with a landing rail halfway between the 2. And you start slow because your horse is going to canter in bold like they've been doing, because the last class you did hopefully was in the jump-off, winning the class, and you're probably really going for it. So you're going to come into this very controlled exercise. You want to set it probably at 2.6 or 2.9 to begin with. Just canter in off of a very collected canter and let your horse start thinking about the ground. The MSA used to say, show your horse the ground. That's what the purpose of the gymnastics and the poles on the ground are, so that your horse can start to think about what's in front of them. And then that exercise can go up, I think, for even top horses. I think 4'3", or either 30 is probably going to get as good a result as you would need. I don't think that you would really need to go up any higher than that. In fact, yesterday we just jumped 120, and she backed off nicely and started breaking over the verticals instead of jumping at them. And we were just able to do that a couple of times. And the next exercise is a pair of oxers, And I start with them 30 feet apart, and I start with them a little wider because they're going to be low. And what I like to do, we got this actually from Linda Allen, because Linda Allen came to Texas and built the Grand Prix, and one of the jump crew guys actually gave me her course diagram with all the specs on it, and there was this really interesting jump. She's always good for building something you've never jumped before. There was a really interesting jump. It was an oxer out of a short turn to the oxer was the end of a line, but the oxer itself was the interesting jump because it had a Liverpool underneath it, and the front of the oxer was 2'9". The back of the oxer was 5'3", and it was quite wide. All the horses jumped it so well that the next week in the schooling area, you saw all the professionals building that jump on purpose to try to get the horse's technique. So we put a pair of those oxers with sort of a super step, we call it. So you have the horse can see the back rail, obviously, but it's quite exaggerated. And it's, like I said, again, it's 30 feet apart. Canter the first time through it, I would say really more of a medium canter because you want your horse to err on the side of being a little bit bold. And at 2'9", 3 foot, which is where it should start, with the low rail being, maybe even 18 inches, it's still going to ride kind of long because your horse is going to look at it because it's a little bit curious, a little weird looking. So you kind of want to come in a little stronger, not such a collected canter, more of a medium canter, because your horse is going to have to reach even at the 30 feet to get out. And then as you start to build it, keeping the super step, you also make it wider from the inside so that the distance actually becomes shorter each time you go up. And then at the very end, for advanced horses, you can have it square at, 120 felt like it got a great result yesterday, and I think the oxer was probably pretty wide, maybe 4 feet wide as well. And what happens is it just schools the horse's technique. And, like, for example, this mare, she was just getting a little bit at the jumps and starting to dump her front end on, I think, the left side. And we had some family in town, and they were actually taking pictures, and we got some really lovely snapshots of how the horse's technique changed from the beginning of the exercise to the end.
Yeah, and that I love those two exercises, and I watched that mare. I know her very well and watched her progression, and it most definitely did those things. And this mare is hot. She is just wild, like throwing clods of dirt in the corners, like she is hot, hot, hot. And she wants to run to the jumps. And, there are a lot of horses that are not that hot, but that are game to the jumps. And I think as riders, we want to bridle them up. We want to shut them down and bridle them up and control them. And what I love about the gymnastics, like Eric is explaining, is it gives you an opportunity to coach your horse, to have them learn and understand the objective by looking at the ground, looking at the rails, picking apart the exercise, and maybe you can access your horse's brain, be smarter, not stronger all the time. I like that because this mare for sure is one that you would think, okay, she's getting a little ready. We're going to just put on more bridle. But this, Eric has found a way to really help her stay sharp. I love it.
Well, there you go. Thanks so much to Eric for today's tip, and you can find him at Stella Farm's Facebook page. For more tips on everything from apps for horse folks to zeroing in on half halts, you can go to horsetipdaily.com and look for the topics drop-down menu on the left, or you can use the search field in the top right. And don't forget, you can have every single one of your favorite Horse Radio Network shows with you wherever you go by downloading the free Horse Radio Network app for iPhone or Android. Just go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network. Download it today. It's quick, it's free, it's easy. And this podcast has been made possible through the generous support of Kentucky Performance Products and listeners like you. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.